Taoiseach, Minister Bruton, Commissioner de Gucht. It's an honor to share the stage with you, and it's a great pleasure to be back in Dublin. Although I'm trying to internalize all that Minister Bruton just said, Carl, I think he's suggesting we get married. But we'll leave that for further interpretation. Look, as you've heard, the links between our countries are so strong, historically, politically, economically. Now, unlike President Obama and Vice President Biden and Tom Donahue here, I can't claim Irish ancestry, but I do feel very much at home here, and it's good to see so many friends here. And let me just recognize in particular John Hennessy Nealand, our Chargé d'Affaires, who I worked with for 2 years at the White House on a series of G8 and G20 summits, and has been doing a terrific job for the United States here in Ireland. But I'm delighted to be back in Dublin for another reason, and it goes to the Taoiseach's comments. The Irish people have gone through a very difficult period the last few years, and they have been positive role models for the rest of the EU and frankly for the rest of the world in terms of their ability to recognize the challenges they face and to take the difficult steps to deal with them. As the G20 leaders declared at the Pittsburgh summit back in 2009, the financial crisis underscored the importance of countries pursuing strong, balanced, and sustainable growth. And under the Taoiseach's leadership, Ireland has been a leader in getting back on that track. Now, trade can make a significant contribution to that type of growth, and so it's fitting that the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, the TTIP, could well be launched during the Irish presidency of the EU. Much has been already said about the TTIP, so I won't repeat it. So let me spend a few minutes instead talking about how the United States views trade done right as a key component of creating growth and building jobs in our economy. Now, let me just tell you the story that every morning at the White House, we have a staff meeting when we are asked, what are we doing in our particular area to spur growth and create jobs in the United States? And so every day, it's our North Star, and everything that we do is built around that overall objective. You know, the U.S. economy has been among the most open economies in the world, serving as a market for countries countries rebuilding after the war, and for countries rising and emerging out of poverty. And when President Obama came to office, he made it clear that he supported trade, and that if the playing field was level, American workers and farmers and ranchers and firms could compete and succeed in the global economy. But that required that we take a hard look at our trade negotiations to make sure that they would contribute to growth and jobs in the United States. It required that we redouble our efforts to enforce our trade rights. And it required that we do whatever we could to strengthen the rules-based trading system. That led us to update the Korea, Colombia, and Panama FTAs and allowed us to achieve some unprecedented expressions of bipartisan support for those agreements. In the absence of a comprehensive Doha agreement, we've supported fresh and innovative ways to maintain momentum in the multilateral trading system, including the negotiation of a trade facilitation agreement, the expansion of the information technology agreement, and the negotiation of a global services agreement. We launched the Trans-Pacific Partnership with the goal of creating a 21st century trade agreement that introduces new disciplines and new standards into the multilateral trading system. Last week, we reached agreement with Japan, and now we are working to bring them into the negotiations as soon as possible. All told, TPP will involve a $1.7 trillion trading relationship, nearly 40% of global trade. And that brings me to TTIP. As you know, I'm here because Minister Bruton graciously invited me to attend a portion of the informal Trade Council this morning. And while there were obviously differences among countries, I was impressed with the overall level of consensus of support for an ambitious, comprehensive agreement that builds on our already deep and broad economic relationship. This is important to spur jobs, spur growth, create jobs, and allow these two great economic powers to work together to help lead the international system in setting rules and standards. Now, as Commissioner de Gucht said, this will be a difficult task. Our predecessors have tried, and frankly, they've made only modest progress. We've spent more than a year together with the Commission looking at the difficult issues and assessing whether there is sufficient common ground to move forward. And ultimately, we agree that a comprehensive agreement is the only feasible way to move forward. And we concluded that if there is a time for an agreement like this to succeed, now is that time. The U.S. economy is growing and adding private sector jobs each month, but there is still a long way to go to repair the damage of the financial crisis and get back to our potential. And the need for growth in Europe is even more evident. As one minister mentioned this morning, trade is like a cost-free stimulus. The evolving nature of the global economy creates additional incentives for us to work through traditionally difficult issues, to reach agreement on them, and have a broader agreement. And the high level of political will in the United States as well as Europe gives us hope that we'll be able to achieve our objective in a reasonable period of time. This is important economically. It goes to the heart of the issue of the competitiveness of our economies, our capacity not only to create efficiencies and save costs and promote growth and create jobs, but also to bring our economies together in such a way as to create the possibility for the two of us to help lead the way in setting global rules and to set standards. But this is more than an exercise in trade policy. It's more than an economic initiative. It is equally a political project, not entirely different than the political project you all have been undertaking in creating the single market. Both involve making tough decisions, finding ways to bridge historical differences in the way we've done things as part of a larger vision. And as our National Security Advisor, Tom Donilon, made clear in a Wall Street Journal article this week, this is as much a strategic initiative as it is an economic initiative. We have a strong alliance, and this agreement will further strengthen it. But this is only going to succeed if it's ambitious. The potential success of the agreement lies in its comprehensiveness, not just tariffs, but non-tariff barriers. Indeed, the greatest upside in this agreement, but also the most difficult part to get our arms around, is the regulatory and standards aspect of it. How we can bring those regimes together and move us towards a closer transatlantic marketplace without, of course, compromising the health and safety of our people. We also see TTIP as a way to get at common goals for global trade, securing strong labor standards, locking in environmental protections, protecting intellectual property rights, dealing with issues like unfair competition by state-owned enterprises or local content requirements and localization programs. All of this, of course, we need to pursue in the context of the multilateral trading system. We all know that multilateral trade liberalization is the highest and best form of trade liberalization, and nothing would give us, nothing would please us more than if a successful conclusion of the Doha round were within reach, but that does not seem feasible at the moment. Our goal with TTIP, as well as with TPP, therefore, is not to weaken the multilateral system, but to strengthen it. First, by creating new disciplines, high standards that can ultimately feed into the bloodstream of the multilateral trading system. And second, by demonstrating that whether or not negotiations are progressing at the WTO, we are committed to moving forward with trade liberalization with those countries that are ready to do so, which we expect will ultimately spur on and create more momentum at the multilateral level as well. We've got a pretty clear view of how to proceed. First, we can do this if we press ahead and not lose momentum because of the obstacles presented by difficult issues. We can do this, as we say, on one tank of gas. Second, we can do this if we ensure that our negotiators have mandates that are flexible, creative, and ambitious. And third, we can do this if we maintain and apply the political will that we've built on both sides of the Atlantic. Part of maintaining that political will, of course, turns on producing results that are meaningful for people. And we are currently consulting with Congress and with our stakeholders to get their input and their feedback. And as we take this process forward, as the negotiations get launched, we expect that they will play an active role in the negotiations as well, to ensure that TTIP achieves our ultimate objective, again, of spurring growth and creating jobs, the North Star of our overall objective. So let me conclude at where I started. We're at an important juncture. TTIP has the potential, if it's ambitious and comprehensive, if it creates a foundation for us to work together on the development of rules and the setting of standards, if it allows us to raise the bar of the rules-based multilateral trading system, it will make a significant contribution both to transatlantic relations and to the global trading system. I'm enormously grateful to the Government of Ireland for creating additional momentum under its presidency for this initiative, and I look forward to working with all of you to achieve the objectives. Thank you.